Hey there, Dr. Dallas Bragg here, recovery coach for gay men who want to break free from the addictive patterns of crystal meth or TINA and live their best and highest life. Today, we are talking about true self-transformation in recovery. Not just quitting the substance, because what does it take to transform your identity, which is what recovery is all about, right? On this channel, you're going to find lots of resources to help you break free from crystal meth and attain your best and highest self. Also, don't forget to look for my podcast. It's called The Aftermath. It's here on my channel as well. I drop a long form video like this every Saturday, so please turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any. And by the way, if you are interested in my one-on-one coaching program, it's called Recovery Alchemy. The link is to apply is in the show notes. Through weekly one-on-one sessions, weekly group sessions, and daily accountability, your life could look much differently in 6 months than it does right now. I take 2 new clients each month. All right, so let's get started. So if you haven't heard my story, you may know that at one time I was homeless from using crystal meth. In the very beginning of my recovery, I was also homeless. And I remember those 5:30 a.m. mornings catching the public bus, being homeless, and on my way to the courthouse to pee in a cup, and then on to treatment, right? That was my day to day, then on to work, waiting tables, and also being a masseuse. So once settled in my seat on that bus, though, I remember I would close my eyes, lean my head back, and visualize my future for that entire hour ride into the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. I saw myself in a cute home, lounging on the couch with the kids. I saw a car in the driveway, and I felt the peace and stillness of life after meth. I was emotionally and spiritually there every morning on that bus in my mind. That vision, that dream permeated the cells of my body and carried me through from living on the streets to where I am today. But it didn't magically land in my lap. The transformation took time. It took work and lots of patience. And these are the 3 concepts I often see missing in the men who come to me for help. Work, time, and patience. They don't think they need any of those things. They don't understand what it truly takes to transform. It's a process, it's a journey, right? So let's get real about transformation. Not the Instagram version, not the self-help bestseller version, but really the raw, the messy, but the beautiful truth about what it means to fundamentally change who we are and how we move through the world. So here is the truth about change that nobody talks about. Change isn't just hard. It's supposed to be hard. We're literally rewiring neural pathways that have been our survival strategies. When you think about why am I the way I am, it's to survive. When we try to change, we're challenging our brain's fundamental understanding of how to keep us safe. The subconscious has your best interest at heart and only does what you've taught it. So when you try to change these patterns, these addictive patterns, your entire nervous system goes on high alert. It thinks you're not safe. The subconscious doesn't know that when you walk into a TINA party, that's not safe. It thinks that is safe, right? It's like your brain is saying, hey, wait a minute, the strategy kept us alive. It's kept you alive. It's kept you going this far. You're comfortable with it. Are you sure you want to mess with that? This resistance is not your enemy. It's a conversation with your system that is trying to have with you about safety, survival, and what it is it thinks you need. So instead of trying to bulldoze through the resistance or beat yourself up for having it, which most of you do, what if we got curious about it? What if resistance is actually pointing us towards something important that we need to understand about ourselves, something that needs healed? So here's a deep dive question for you. What if your resistance to change in your addictive patterns isn't weakness, but your system's intelligence trying to protect you? Think about that. And what is it trying to protect you from? You can pause the video if you want. So let's talk about understanding your operating system. Your behaviors exist for a reason. Whatever they are, not even just addictive behaviors. Every pattern you developed, everything, even the ones that cause you pain, is trying to solve a problem or meet a need. The problem is strong emotion. The problem is I need to feel connected. The problem is I need validation. I need attention. I feel isolated. Whatever that need is, these patterns are trying to help you solve that problem. So before we can change, we need to honor and understand these patterns. They are not the enemy. Then we can overwrite the patterns that we want to exist. We get to write how we operate. This process, it's like training a new puppy, right? Time, consistency, patience. These patterns did not appear randomly. They evolved because at some point they worked for you. They solved your problem. They handled your stress, whatever it was, right? They kept you safe. They helped you cope or got you the love, quote unquote, and attention that you desperately needed. So over time, these strategies became automated. It's your brain's default operating system. It's the programming that's always running in the background. Here's the thing. This system is incredibly intelligent, even when it causes pain. It's like your psyche created a sophisticated security system with alarms and protective measures, all designed, again, to keep you safe. Understanding this changes everything. When it's not out to get you, but it's to keep you safe, you can start understanding exactly how it works. So instead of seeing yourself as broken or dysfunctional or bad, you can begin to appreciate the wisdom of your adaptations, even as you work to create new ones, right? If you're interested in learning more about your operating system, you can work with me one-on-one to understand your personal system and apply for my one-on-one coaching program called Recovery Alchemy. The link to apply is in the show notes. Do weekly one-on-one sessions, weekly group sessions, and daily accountability. Your life could look much differently, and you can understand yourself much deeper in the next 6 months. So let's look at some deep work. Meeting your patterns means sitting with each of these questions for at least 5 minutes. So you can write these questions down, or you can pause here. What problem was your addictive patterns originally trying to solve? Not just I was horny and I needed to have sex. That's not it. Think deeper than that. How did this behavior protect or help me in the past? And what would need to be true for me to feel safe letting this pattern? A lot of us, we say we want to be free from crystal meth, but we don't want to let go. We don't want to let go of the pattern and the comfortability of the cycle because we think it's who we are. So let's talk about the hidden truth of homeostasis. So here's something very important to realize that most transformation work really does ignore. And that is when you start to change, your entire system, your subconscious, including your relationships outside of yourself, will resist the change. Your current patterns are part of a large ecosystem, all wrapped around each other. And that ecosystem will fight to maintain stability in its life. We tend to villainize our brains and our addictive patterns as something working against us. But the effort to maintain stability is also for your protection. It thinks it needs to protect you. Your relationships will probably feel it first. People who are used to you being a certain way, they bought into you being a certain way. They bought into a certain version of you. They might resist or react when you start showing up differently. This isn't because they don't want you to grow. It's because your change requires them to change too, right? And that can be scary. So understanding the systemic nature of change is very crucial and very important to this. You expect it all to start to unravel and fight for its life. It helps us to anticipate resistance. You can plan for the support and create environments that nurture rather than hinder our transformation. You want people around who will not remind you of your past, but let you be your future self, right? And again, for this ecosystem to pull out all the stops to hold on to its cycles and patterns. It gets harder before it gets easier, but you have to understand that creating the new patterns makes it feel like you're unsafe. So you're going to feel a lot of negative emotions. You have to separate yourself from the emotion and understand that it's just your system reacting. So what's a system mapping exercise? If you want, you can pause the video and do this too. Draw a map of your life, including key relationships, daily routines, environmental factors, right? Support systems, stress points. Now, for each element, explore these questions. How might this resist my change? This is preemptive for you. And what adjustments might this require on my part? And what support might this need from me? And what support can I ask from my support system to get me through this resistance? Some important questions. All right. So let's talk about the consistency principle. So I want you to pay close attention to this statement. Successful abstinence from crystal meth is not having superhuman strength and abilities. It is about normal efforts maintained for abnormal periods of time. Normal efforts maintained for abnormal periods of time, which means small changes, normal efforts in terms of journaling or a meditation, a walk, daily consistent action over long periods of time. This is both liberating and challenging. It means we don't have to be extraordinary. You don't have to do all the things at once, but you do have to be consistent. You just need to show up every day, make slightly better choices every day. But it's challenging because it requires something many of us struggle with: patience and trust in the process, right? Each small action, if it's, I'm going to write 1 sentence in my journal this week, next week I'm going to write 2 sentences in my journal. Each small action is like making a deposit in your transformation bank account, right? These micro commitments might seem insignificant at the moment, but they're actually rebuilding your relationship with yourself. You're rebuilding your trust. And every time you follow through on a small promise to yourself, you're proving that change is possible. You're showing yourself that you can be trusted. Your word means something. And then you can move on to bigger changes. So here's a 5-minute revolution practice. Choose one small action that takes 5 minutes or less. Commit to it every day for 30 days. And track not just your action, but your resistance to it. What emotions come up? What insights, right? Notice how the practice evolves naturally. Something to do. Something that might really help. Okay, so let's work with negativity bias. Your brain, our brains, are wired, right, to fixate on what's wrong. It's always looking to keep you safe. What's dangerous and what's lacking. It isn't a personal failure. So don't say, I'm so negative, right? It's how we survive as a species, always looking for the negatives so we can run. But in modern life, this bias can keep us trapped in patterns of self-criticism, fear, doubt. Your system becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning for potential threats and problems. It's like your brain's threat detection system is stuck on high alert. But we can work with that design rather than work against it. We can acknowledge our brain's protective intent while gradually training it to notice safety, progress, possibility, wins. We anchor into every small win we can, so the brain starts looking more for that. This is about building new neural pathways alongside the existing ones, creating a more balanced way of perceiving ourselves in our journey. The perception is what's important, not the perfection, right? So what's your morning focus? Here's one way to rewire. So what's one small thing you're doing, right? In the afternoon, what's one way you've shown up for yourself today? In the evening, what's one piece of evidence that the change showed up? So that's a morning, afternoon, and evening practice. What small change am I going to do? What's one way I'm showing up for myself? And then what's a piece of evidence that that change is possible or that I did it? And if I didn't do it, why? So let's talk about self-worth for a minute. We compare our raw footage, right, to everyone else's highlight reel, as they say. We see every misstep, every backslide, every relapse, every moment of weakness in ourselves while only seeing others' curated successes, what they want you to see. This creates it's a distorted view of both ourselves and the change process. We think we should be there, or we think they got it easy, right? But here's what is rarely talked about. Self-worth isn't something you achieve, isn't something that you just have. It's something that you have to practice. It's built in small moments of self-compassion, in small moments of challenging the inherited stories about who you are and what you're capable of. What are you saying? I am this, I am that, right? How can you show self-compassion in this moment? It isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, before you adopted all these beliefs about yourself, that you're not good enough, that you're not strong enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough. True transformation requires us to rebuild our relationship with ourselves, and it's from the ground up. You're creating a foundation of self-trust and self-compassion strong enough to support the changes we want to make. So here's a radical honesty exercise. Write your raw footage story, right? All the messy, uncomfortable parts. Don't edit it. Don't leave anything out. Be as honest as you can and share it with somebody you trust. And notice what happens when you let yourself be seen in all your messiness. Admit everything you can in all your vanity. There's something liberating about that, and it sets you free. It gets it out of here and out of your mouth and out of your body, and it's out there. It cleanses that. So a lot of us are afraid of hope, right? Many of us have been hurt so many times that hope feels dangerous. It feels like it's scary to want the best, right? It's easier to stay cynical, to expect failure in your life, to keep your expectations very low. Our hope tolerance gets low when we've been hurt or disappointed repeatedly, especially by ourselves, right? Just like somebody who's been injured might fear putting weight on their leg again, we become afraid to put weight on our hopes. We're very timid. Building hope back up requires us to start small, to create evidence that change is possible through very tiny victories, very tiny wins, and small signs of progress. You anchor into that, and you only look for that, and you only pay attention to that. It's about finding that delicate balance between daring to hope and staying grounded in reality. But it's about developing the capacity to hold possibility, the possibility of abstinence from crystal meth, even in the face of uncertainty, even in the face of what's going on around you. So the middle path is what I want to talk about next. True transformation isn't about extremes, right? This is patience journey. It's about looking at the bigger picture. It's about finding a balance, right, between acceptance of what's happened and change. Because who we are and who we're becoming, you're in the middle of that. And where do you find the balance, right? It's about holding both our pain and our potential in equal compassion. So create two lists: what you accept about yourself right now, what you're working to change, and look for ways these lists support rather than contradict each other. Hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, put them in the comments. Listen, if you follow my content, I'm sure you've read or heard me say this. Recovery is not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming who you truly are, who you were before the world told you who you were. Your willingness to stay on this journey, to keep showing up, even when it's hard, to maintain hope, certainty, even when it feels risky, even when you don't feel like it. That's not just courage. That is transformation. That's transformation in action. I hope this helped. If you are interested, again, working with me, apply below. If you have a topic that you'd like me to talk about, also comment below. I'd love to hear from you. What did I miss here, and what would you add? All right. I love you all. Have a great week.